Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. Today's question comes from Dick Melcher, who's WA6MDI. Okay. He says, I have an interesting situation. I'm using an Icom 9700 with the single Cushcraft A270-10s. Okay, that is a vertical antenna that has a long boom, and it actually connects at the end right here. The long elements there are the 2 meter, and the short elements are for the 70 centimeter. Note it's mounted vertically. That's for use with FM. If you were doing weak signal work like CW, single sideband, and so on, you'd have it horizontal. If you're not familiar, that's a dual band 2 meter and 432 5 element beam on each band. It uses a phasing harness to arrive at one coax feed. Okay, now as I look at that, there's a driver right there for 70 centimeters, and then there's the driver for the 2 meters. Okay, so there's two antennas, and there's a phasing harness. Now, before we jump into this, I'd like to pay a special thank you to Monty Bates, KF0GPX. He is one of my longtime patrons on patreon.com, and thank you very much, Monty, for your support. You too can become a patron by going to patreon.com/KE0OG and picking a method that works for you. Here's the deal about the phasing harness. This is something that allows the two antennas to be driven by the same coax, so that you can attach that coax to a 2 meter/70 centimeter radio. Okay? And the thing is, the way this is set up, if you're on 2 meters, the 70 centimeter antenna will be wildly out of tune, so much so that it won't take any power. Similarly, if you transmit on 70 centimeters, the 2 meter antenna is wildly out of tune and won't take any power. So that's how that so-called phasing harness works. It's designed so that you can drive one antenna but not the other, okay? Now, because you're doing that, you're seeing one antenna, you're seeing an approximately 50 ohm load, which is exactly what you want for your antenna. Now, you mentioned that you have an Icom 9700. The Icom 9700 looks a lot like the Icom 7300, but it has 3 bands. The bands are 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and if you buy the extra little module for it, 12 something, one of the real high bands. But it sounds like you're not using that for this. You're just using 2 meters and 70 centimeters. Now, if you're doing this for single sideband or for CW or RIDI or FT8 or something like that, you'd flip that antenna so it would be horizontal. And maybe you've done that, okay? Now, here's his question. I would like to add a second one, and I know this is only 3 dB gain, but would like to keep the single feed line. In looking at the market price, there does not appear any way to accomplish this as far as phasing harnesses commercially available. Any ideas? Well, if you're phasing this, you're going to double your power out, but you've got to do something with that phasing line. Simply connecting them together is going to give you a parallel resistance problem. You have 50 ohms on this one, 50 ohms on this one. That works out to 25 ohms. Okay, that's a 2-to-1 SWR, and is not going to give you what you want. In fact, you're going to losing my voice. you're going to run out of, you're going to create a problem because you're feeding 25 ohms, okay? What you really need is a balun, or actually a bal. No. What you need is a nun that changes from your 50 ohm output of your radio to the 25 ohms of the two antennas in parallel. Now, if you go to the ARRL antenna book, and there's some of this in the hen book, but more in the antenna book for space communications and things like this, it will tell you how to phase and couple these antennas and drive them in such a way that you're driving them together. It can work. It can really help you, okay? But you've got to be careful. Otherwise, you're you add something, but then you're creating an issue. You're taking two in parallel, it becomes 25 ohms instead of 50 ohms, okay? So you can do it. Look in that source, the antenna book, for an explanation of how all of that works. People use this for like moon bounce, for meteor scatter, very long distance openings on 6 meters for single sideband and so on. There's lots of reasons that you would want this sort of antenna, but go read up in the antenna book. This is a little bit beyond the purview of what I normally do in this channel, because this type of antenna is an advanced type of thing that we're doing, not something you would be doing as a new general. So I hope you enjoy your radio, and if you'd like to contribute to this channel financially, you may do so by going to dcasler.com/support. And until we next meet, 73.